I began my career in 2002 as a web designer, where I had the privilege of creating web experiences for renowned brands like Citibank and Asian Paints. Okay, so this was my starting of my career, where it gave me that experience of how important an aesthetic and user experience shapes the brand identity. Okay. With this, I would like to also highlight two critical pivotal points in my 2 decade of experience, which inspired my passion for brand management. The first one would be my experience working for Suntec, a Trivandrum-based IT product company, serving to the banking and telecom divisions. Here, I encountered the first pivotal moment because we had actually done a branding exercise to ensure that, like, is Suntec the name or the brand which we really want to go ahead with, continue with the name brand Suntec. Okay, so that exercise actually taught me a lot about what branding is, how it needs to be approached, and all that. And then the second main thing here which happened is, like, we came up with a new concept called relationship-based pricing, which was evolving in the market, which really not many players had a solution for this kind of a concept, right? So we had to take a comprehensive integrated marketing approach to really create that brand experience of the Suntec products for its customers. So we included a wide range of marketing activities, which included the traditional marketing, whether it could be advertisements, or it could be presence in the events, or it could be a PR activity through media interviews or articles in journals and all that. And also digital marketing, which was just an evolving concept. In digital also, we took a 360-degree approach, where we had to have built our own microsite. Our website needs to talk about this concept. We had to have our newsletters in place. We had webinars, podcasts, everything talking about this brand and the concept relationship-based pricing in a 360-degree approach to achieve the brand goals. So this gave me the first experience of the power of a holistic strategy to achieve the brand goals, right? So the second one which stands out from my experience, I would really highlight, is creating the brand Clayfin. It is for a Chennai-based banking product company. So this was a unique challenge for me, because Clayfin was actually earlier was known as SolutionNet, and it was part of a company called Vayana. So Vayana had a different product, SolutionNet had a different product. Then they decided to spin it off as two separate companies. So the unique challenge was to create a unique brand identity, which one resonated with the existing clients, to ensure that, like, it doesn't go with the old company which it was associated with. And the third part is actually ensuring that it is along with the current trend, and it will make a difference for the potential customers, right? So we need to take all these angles together to create a brand which was really in the trend. So we had actually identified agency. Usually companies, when they go for identification of agency, they look at whether they have done similar kind of projects. No, we did a totally different approach. We said we wanted a fresh look. We don't really want to give this an IT background, but an experience creating company, right? Because that was already in our DNA. So we identified a branding agency, which maybe it's not existing now. It was the one which gave Cafe Coffee Day the line, lot can happen over a coffee, right? So then they didn't really have an experience in the IT world, but we wanted that kind of a company to really give us a fresh outlook. And that really worked out well for us. They did their own research along with us. They came back and gave a lot of ideas, but we clearly said, like, first we wanted to create, identify what is our core ideology, which needs to go behind the brand name. All right. So we found out that, like, what exactly our team does is actually we are like craftsmen creating digital banking experiences for the end users. So a craftsman gives the perfect outlook and the best experience what a customer wants, right? And also we had the inspiration from the child, because it has the innocence and always has the curiosity to ask questions, why not and what else, right? If you give the clay in the hands of a child, you would always think that they will build a house. Not necessarily. They might even come up with a dog or something else, what really actually matters, and it can be really innovative and out of the world also. So this was the thought process and the which led to the birth of the name Clayfin. Clay, which can be molded to create digital experiences, banking experience of customers, whether they are in the laptop, using a laptop, or whether they're using a mobile, or they use any other wearable media, whether it's a watch banking or it's any form which takes, because now AI has come, there's a lot of other evolvements has come, right? So how you mold this. So this brand name evolvement itself defined what the company stands for, and it translates into a great brand story for us. See, these two are some pivotal moments which I think actually gave the inspiration for me to go behind brand management, and that brand is a critical part of marketing which is required. One, to establish the trust with the customer. Two, to ensure that demand gets generated, because this marketing is always a long-term effort. It's not a short-term guerrilla kind of a marketing which we can do and come up. It needs to be a long-term.
I'm an avid reader of research reports. According to a recent study of Gartner, 64% of marketers believe that traditional marketing is no longer effective. And people are, started saying traditional marketing is dead. Let's focus on, something else that can give me, you said a right word called demand generation. There are two things that we always observe as a marketer: demand generation and demand capture. What is your take on it based on your professional experience? And, can we answer people who are saying traditional marketing is dead? Is it really dead, do you think?
Actually, I'm curious to see that 64% of the marketers has said that traditional marketing do not exist or are not effective or it's dead, right? I would put it on a different perspective of how things are evolving in the marketing field itself, right? I agree, the digital age, because I've been seeing the last 20 years, and I said my earlier careers itself, I've seen how the digital has evolved and how we have used it and all. So digital has really transformed, especially after the pandemic. It has had a huge shift, right? When people didn't know how to sell because most of them were offline, suddenly they had to have shift to online, right? So now it's I see it as a people having a lot of fad towards the digital. Yes, digital is critical, no doubts in that. It will continue and it will have a long-term effect. But nevertheless, traditional marketing methods still hold their relevance depending on which demographic or local markets you want to reach out to, right? The Pitch Madison Advertising Report 2023 says that traditional advertising will account for rupees 62,000 crores in 2023. This is not a small amount. Out of the total 1 lakh crores, right? So yes, the same report also says digital is growing fast at a faster pace. Earlier it was TV and advertising, and then it was the digital. Digital was on the lower end. Now actually TV and digital are catching towards it, right? So no doubts digital is growing, but traditional should coexist alongside digital marketing. A classic example I would say is Amazon, a digital pioneer. A digital pioneer, why are they having newspaper ads which are running for 2-3 pages when they have the sales happening during the Diwali or any other occasion, right? It works even for Flipkart, or you take anyone else also. So you cannot eliminate traditional marketing totally out of the picture. For example, when you go to a rural or a retail store, right? A traditional marketing still like a newspaper ad, a local newspaper ad, right? A flyers or a radio advertising or a dangler which was being used can be highly effective. At K7, where I'm working currently, we leverage these medium to reach our end customers and partners spread across the nation, because we are available throughout, our products are available throughout the country and globally. So when you want to reach them in a local retail store, when a customer is almost ready to make a decision, right? a dangler with a specific offer or a custom message will make a lot of more difference, or a flyer which is available there, right? So these kind of traditional marketing still works, and it is being working. So in summary, if I want to bring it out, you cannot call digital marketing to be dead, but a more forward-thinking marketer should take an approach of saying that it will coexist, and you need to have the right data to say which marketing works for you for a particular audience and for a particular location. Depending on whether it's the new age crowd, you need to have the digital. If it's going to be in the rural area, you need to have your traditional marketing working out. So I would put it in that way. So it should coexist to have a broader reach and achieve your goals.
Absolutely. I completely align on that, because, you said that traditional marketing is not dead. I am completely aligned. You're a veteran, more than 20 years, that you've been working, and I've been working 13 years. People are talking about, a lot on this particular stuff. Traditional marketing is no more. You're rightly pointed at Amazon. I don't want to take the name, but at the end of the day, what I've been working with large, big four consulting firms earlier, right? So these companies, the digital e-commerce giants in India, across outside India as well, they somewhere around spend 400 to 500 crores every year on the traditional media, and so is on the digital as well. It's half. That means people see, the conventional or traditional media will give you the mass and scale. It has the potential, and that's where all the Facebooks of the world, Geos of the world, and are partnering with trying to bring the internet connectivity penetration somewhere in the rural area by providing unmanned aerial vehicle drones and providing internet. It is not for only digital, right? But ultimately enable them to talk about how traditional media works as well as digital media works. What are the key principles that you believe are crucial for creating a successful and enduring brand in today's competitive market?
See, things have not really changed, whether it is the earlier market or now, when you're creating a successful and enduring brand, right? It's only how the marketing mix, how you deploy it varies, but the basic principles remain the same. For creating a successful and enduring brand in today's competitive market, you need to have a well-thought strategy, which needs to focus on several key principles. Some are like the purpose and value of what you're offering and what the brand stands for, right? When I gave the example of Clayton, we clearly said our brand stands for creating brand banking experiences, digital banking experiences for our end customer. That is pretty clear with our thought process. So similarly, we need to understand our target audience. Depending on our target audience, their pains, preferences, and pain points, we need to tailor our brand messaging so that it resonates with them. So that's another critical area which we always have to have in mind when we are putting our brand strategy in place. And you need, people call it differentiation, some call it unique selling point. What is that differentiates your product from the others, right? That helps you in multiple ways. One, yes, taking the ensuring you're standing out from the competition. Two, it also helps you to whether you can have a premium from the product or you want to be pricing it in a different way. It helps in a lot of your marketing thought processes, right? You need to have a great story to tell to your customers which resonates with them. That's why I've always been fascinated when I talk about my previous company experiences, right? Each company was a pioneer in their own field and they had a story to tell. That story actually resonates with the customer, whether it is the digital banking story or it could be the relationship-based pricing story. It needs to resonate with what the audience, the need of the audience. I talk a lot from B2B perspective. Majority of my experience comes from there. So that's where I'm saying the banking and all experience, right? Then another thing is a lot of marketers missed on this is the consistency. a lot of them take it as a short-term goal. It needs to be a long-term effort, right? When you want to drive a message across the customers. All great brands which have been created have been driving the message consistently. Where you can take a lot of examples from India itself, like whether it's the Tatas or the Infosys, they have a particular brand messaging which goes across. It has not been created overnight. It needs to be consistent, right? Whether from the visual identity or the customer experience which we give at different touch points. Now it is more of the online touch points. Even when a communication goes on a WhatsApp, or you take a communication on your email, or it could be on your website, whatever it is, it needs to be consistent that the same visual identity is being presented so that the brand gets registered in the minds of the customer and the same story is being told. And with authenticity, because nowadays it's building the trust among the customers is critical. Once you break the trust, it immediately you have a lot of negative effect, and especially with the social media in place, it's very easy to get the negative branding. So we have to be very careful and we have to be authentic and build the trust among the customers. And customer engagement is a very critical part in building the brand story, listening to that feedback and responding to their needs quickly, especially in the digital age. If you don't respond now, you get a lot more comments flowing in within the fraction of a second. All right. So you need to be very cautious, keep an eye on all the messages coming in, and try to build loyal brand advocates for yourself. That's pretty useful. And in the services industry, right, employee engagement is not only services, the product company also, but services makes a lot of impact here. Employee engagement, because your employees are the brand advocates who talk to the customers, because at every touch point when they are talking, they are actually taking the brand story across. So you need to be very cautious on how you build your employee engagement and build a brand around them. And one thing which I wanted to highlight is legal protection, right? Trademarks and intellectual property protection to safeguard your brand, because you think great about your brand, you start building it, but if you don't have the legal protection around it, you might lose it, and then you have to start the whole work again from start. That's something which you need to be very careful, and as a marketer, you have to focus on those aspects. So I would end it with saying marketers need to remember that building a successful brand is an ongoing process, and it always be willing to adapt and refine the brand strategy as your business grows and the market changes, because market is continuously changing.
IP protection, etc., is very essential as far as any organization is concerned. On that particular note, it's a very interesting question that I would really want to ask. HubSpot did a recent survey which talks about owned media as the most trusted source of information for B2B buyers. And you are coming from a large, expertise with B2B experience and B2C as well. How can companies use owned media to build trust with the target audience?
See, this is one of my favorite topics. Okay, I've always believed that content is king. Okay, owned media is nothing but your blogs, it's your website, it is whatever is owned by the company, whether it's your social media accounts, the newsletters, or whatever content what you're creating. Because for all this, the base is the content, right? And this is very apt for B2B marketing, because in a B2C environment, more than the content, how attractive and you make it more punchy, it makes a lot of difference, right? But in a B2B, in different stages of their buying process, they need a lot of content to be consumed. When they are actually researching for a product, you need a different kind of a material, like maybe a white paper. When they are actually they have shown interest, they want to know whether this is the right company or something. Maybe the more details about the product is required, a video about your product or product materials and all that is really required, right? When they are about to take the action, now they need more content, like whether it's a customer testimonial or an analyst reference. There's a lot of other materials which needed by the customer to take that call. Yes, I want this company. product rather than a company B product, right? So at each step, the own media plays a huge role in building the trust among the B2B buyer. So depending on the product or the service or what we are offering, right, the content strategy really needs to change, and what kind of own media you need to create. For example, the companies, as I mentioned, where I've been working, they have been pioneers in a particular field. So we always wanted to create a thought leadership content, right? For this kind of a thought leadership content, what really works is maybe a microsite. It could be a blog where it's not only we are talking about our products, but it is actually, as a thought leader, we are talking about the industry, right? What the industry needs, how the industry is evolving, how the companies needs to adapt to this and pick up the right products which will help them to grow in their business. So here, the content strategy is to create thought leadership content. So this will give the trust among the B2B customers, right? The content needs to be really high quality content. So how you want to, the white paper needs to have that authority and authenticity. It can't be just a lot of high-end gas which is being given in the content, right? It needs to be really what the customer needs. So we need to demonstrate the expertise through these owned media. And also nowadays it has to be consistent. In social media, if there is a post which goes weekly, suddenly you miss for 3 weeks, people just lose interest in you. So that consistency has to be there, one, in the messaging, what you want to talk about, and also how often you want to release this, so that the customers, when they come back and look for your product materials or content, it is available for them, right? And always, as I said, it shouldn't be a product related content. It should be educational resources, so that people are ready to come and look at you, because every time you say that you have a product offer, you have a product feature, people are not interested. People really want to know what is that information they get out of it, which will help them to make the decision. And customer testimonials, success stories, these are all owned media, right? Which helps in creating a great owned media, which will help not only create the brand visibility, but also help in demand generation and lead nurturing to close a sale.
Absolutely.
So that's where I would say that it need to be 3 key things: valuable, reliable, and authentic content.
Absolutely. As a fellow marketer, I will be completely, agreeing on that point. Having said that, as a fellow marketer, I also equally believe in the other 2 medias, earned and paid media as well. And even in a recent report done by McKinsey, found that the earned media is also, more than 3x of effective in driving the brand awareness than the paid media. What are, some of the most successful earned media strategies that you can suggest?
See, this is again in 2012, right? In my previous organization, I was part of a team which established a paid owned earned media framework. Okay. See, as you rightly said, not just the owned media will work out. You need to have everything in place, whether it's a paid, owned, or earned media. All needs to coexist to have the best output for a B2B environment. Right. In the paid media, successful strategies, media campaign strategies, you can consider to drive brand awareness and engagement. Okay. In 2012, when I was part of a previous organization, I had actually was part of a team which established the paid, owned, earned media framework, because we always felt just the owned media doesn't work out. You need to have the paid and earned media to work in conjunction or coexist to get the best output. This works really well with the B2B space, because the owned media will reach only to a certain set of customers because it's more of a push marketing, right? It all depends on how much content you're having, the greatness of the content and all that. The reach matters, but the paid helps you to go more targeted to a certain audience. Nowadays, with all the paid mediums which are available, has very specific target where you can actually target certain customers, right? Whether you want to go behind customers in India or US, you can target, and you can even drill down by the city, by whether they are working in a particular industry. So you can actually drill down to that large extent and have a very customized content driving to this particular audience. So the paid media will help you to drive specific messages, whereas the own media might be generic to a larger audience, right? So now when we are driving a paid media strategy, there are multiple sections. One, if it's a new age company, maybe it might look at first creating the brand awareness. So the messaging might be different. Whereas when they are trying to go for a demand generation, the total strategy might be different. Whether you want to go for a Google ad, which is going to drive you towards the sale aspect of it, or you want to drive it to a content which will help build the thought leadership for you. For example, in the previous companies we used to build, since it's a thought leadership content, our paid efforts were driving the message towards content which was created. For example, it is a webinar or it could be a podcast, so that people need to know about that concept itself, right? So my thought process is the paid media needs to coexist, the earned media also. The earned media is actually can be created through your internal and external influencers who play a key role in driving the brand message. Okay. For example, in my previous company, we had a CFO who had created a strong follower base in LinkedIn through his knowledge sharing on financial aspects, right? So most of the people used to follow him not for the product updates, but actually the industry updates which people are looking for. This actually helped build the brand for the company. And similarly, a CMO from my previous organization had her own blog where she was talking about her experiences in the marketing field, right? So this helped garnered a huge marketing fan base, which later helped her drive the concepts or thought processes from the company in a very subtle way, rather than always talking about the product in a direct, right? So these are all earned media ways. Even the user generated content, whether it could be they are sharing our reposting our user generated content on social media channel, or it could be a customer testimonial. These are all different ways on how the earned media can be really built up and help the owned media to really move to the give us the better output.
Right, interesting. So basically, you're talking about the mix of media that helps, all the way from owned, earned, paid media. So on that note, I would like to ask, I have a question that on top of it, what exactly the marketing mix that you do, and what are the different factors that need to be considered when developing a marketing mix? It's a combination of questions, I would say.
Right.
I will probably continue when you answer this one with the other two on the marketing mix side.
Sure. See, the marketing mix, right, has actually evolved. The basics of the marketing mix is the 4 Ps, right? The product, price, place, and promotion, right? That's a very critical element for any company. What product you're offering. If you want to be successful, obviously the product needs to be unique. It has to have the right features, what the customer needs. And you need to also think about a roadmap for the product, right? It can't be that like I create a product now and then I just leave it like that. You need to continuously evolve the product. It needs to, so that the customers are actually coming back. You can take many great examples why someone is going behind a particular phone model. When they evolve, people want to just change and then go for the next version of the product, right? So you need to have that unique selling proposition, and the pricing strategy needs to be very clear. Whether you want to be a premium product, or you want to be a competitive pricing product, or you want to be a low cost product, right? It all depends on what value you're offering and how you want to price. And also the pricing strategy can be changed based on where you're actually selling, the place, whether it's an offline medium or on an online medium, what kind of offerings you want to give it to them. So the distribution channel has also actually evolved from just an offline to an online medium, whether it's an e-commerce or your own website, or it could be a third-party site where you can sell. And promotion is actually a mix, where we spoke a lot about the digital pay don't earn strategy, right? But also depending on the product, you need to see whether you want to bring in the traditional mix, because where you're selling as a play, as I said, the traditional marketing might work, and whether you need a public relation. For a lot of companies, a PR activity might not be required, but if you are a thought leader in the industry, a PR activity actually helps, right? So whether you want to have an analyst relationship in place, which actually helps you to talk on your behalf about the concept to the larger audience, because your reach might be limited, but the analyst reach is going to be bigger, and the word is going to be taken easily by the customer because they trust on analysts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, actually, the beyond this marketing mix, now it has actually evolved with three more P's, right? Why? Because the services earlier was actually a part of the product, but now services has been given a more prominent place in your product. Whether, yeah, there are services industries, no doubts in that, but even in a product, after buying the product, you want to service it, that becomes a total different ball game altogether, right? Here, the people, process, and physical evidence matters a lot. The people have always spoken about the employee engagement, because the people are the ones who are going to be the front facing for any customer. So they are going to take your brand towards the customers. A classic example could be within the petrol bunks, right? If you go to a Shell and you go to another petrol bunk, you will see a vast difference, because the way the employees have been trained is totally different, and the experience you get is totally different. So the process you said, how easy is it for me to buy the product or experience the product, all actually matters. This is where the technology really comes in, right? Now the CRMs which are available, or the MarTechs which are available, like your campaign management tool, where whatever MarTechs are available, and the analytics which helps you to really understand and then take a call on what kind of marketing effort you need to do, right? So this process is also very critical in delivering your product as well as creating that experience for the customer. And the last is the physical evidence. A lot of people look at the tangible cues, right, which gives the reassurance to customers about the service quality. So that is something which needs to be really looked at. Now, with this, I just wanted to say that, like, the key to successful marketing mix is deep understanding of your target audience, adapting to the changes in the market, and continuously refining your strategies to meet your business goals.
Right, absolutely. Which, I was just astonished when you talk about, the future mix of changes. You had a little over 2 decades of experience, and this thing, thanks for answering, and thanks for putting it up very beautifully, how exactly that got changed in the recent years. And thanks for the advice that you are given to the, young marketers who are trying to do a different set of marketing mix for their businesses, especially in the B2B space. It's not only for B2B, but also, yes, I agree, in a certain extent, B2C also similar. Thanks for beautifully putting it up. I also read a recent study by Nielsen. 60% of the consumers say that they are more likely to trust a brand, which they heard of from a friend, more of a referral, somebody from a friend or a family member. How can companies, use organic marketing to generate, positive earned media actions and build the trust with their target audience? What do you think about it in terms of how exactly word of mouth will work?
See, I always believe that a word of mouth, especially for the B2B, right, works a lot, because advertising is not being in the industry, right? Most of the people always have a second thought about advertising. But when it's like a friend or a colleague who refers a particular product, it becomes very easy for the decision maker to take a call. All right. Now, how the marketers can actually help in this part of thing to ensure that the customer is going to give a positive review, right? It actually starts from your product.
Right.
The product needs to be really solid. It needs to give that kind of an experience to the customer. If it's a service, the exceptional customer experience they are having at every touch point, whether it could be the billing, it could be the delivery of the product, or it could be how they are using the product, right? When they are using the product itself, how you're actually giving them constant information to really use the product to the maximum, right? So all these aspects really make a lot of difference when someone uses the product and then goes and tells his colleague, or it could be someone else. So here, once if they are having a great product experience, you need not ask, but they become influencers of your product, right? So they might give you customer testimonials, they will come up with case studies, and a lot of people will be ready to talk about your product even in events, right? They will come along, share the stage with you, and talk about how your product has really helped them drive business or any other factor. So the influencers here are really our customers. Or also, on the other hand, you can actually even have to-be customers, right? You can give trials. A lot of nowadays that SaaS products comes up with a 15-day trial or a 30-day trial. The whole thing is like you are making your influencers within the company, because they might not be the final decision maker, but they are the ones who are going to go and tell the decision maker the product is good or bad, right? How you make them also influencers are partners, because a lot of B2B depend on the partners. Even our company K7 has a lot of partners across the country who sell our products to B2B customers, right? So the partners become our influencers because they have been using our product. Because once they onboard, we give them the free product, so they are also so confident of using the product, and then they talk about it to the end customer with ease. All right. Referral programs could be a very good area where like you are enabling the customer to talk to their colleagues or even refer and get much more better support. And I would also suggest one more area where actually you can have a better mingling of your customers and prospects. Create user forums, especially when your product, B2B product company, create user forums where you are going to get the feedback from your customers on the product. You are also allowing them to be part of your journey to create the roadmap for the product. So you know exactly what the product the customer needs. Here, even you bring in certain potential customers at your annual conferences, user conferences, right? So they might also be part of the journey, so that you know that like you're creating a product not just for your customers but also for your potential customers. So by incorporating these strategies, one can foster positive word of mouth marketing and earn media. So the trust is the critical aspect in building an organic long-term effort, and this needs to be continuous. It can't be a short-term strategy.
According to several reports and even a report by Gartner, 80% of the CMOs believe that AI will revolutionize the marketing in the next 5 years. How do you see AI and ML as in machine learning being used in marketing in the future?
See, I actually see this AI ML is being spoken about now after the use of the chat GPT really coming in, right? But I have seen this evolved in the last 5 years or even before. Because the AI and ML, the first usage I would put it as actually the chatbots.
Right.
I have seen this in the banking industry because my previous company is more into the banking products. So we have actually developed products, a chatbot for the banking. So that was where really AI really came in, which was the first touch point to the customer to have interactions. Maybe it just started as a basic giving you what are the products available, but now the chatbots have really evolved where it has become a customer engagement tool and a sales support tool, right? It's more than just giving you some information. It also takes action on how you have trained the chatbot. So I see now the evolution of is actually taking a real pivotal moment with a lot of these AI tools like ChatGPT and for video creation and for anything and everything, right? This artificial intelligence is going to play a key role supporting the marketers. Many feel that is it like totally going to replace a marketer? No, the marketing brain is always a different one, and it will take technology and adapt to the technology. It will grow along with them. For example, even the analytics, right? The AI will play a key role in segmenting the audience, helping create what could be the custom message. But all this has to be thought through by a marketer very well, because what you input is what you're going to get as an output. It's the same concept when you had a computer 40-50 years before, right? What you input, what you get as an output. With the AI also, you need to give the right inputs to get the right output. Every martech has actually jumped into this bandwagon. They are using AI to effectively to maximize the ROI. So as a marketer, we need to continuously adapt and embrace these evolving technologies to better be positioned to stay competitive and serve their customers more effectively.
Interesting. So that brings to the end of this interview today. It's a lovely conversation that we had, and there are a lot of things that people does not aware, and especially our audience was looking at the insights that you are given for, from your experience of a little over a decade. That's really interesting, and we're really looking forward to meeting you again on some other concept that we wanted to bring up in the near future.